Hi, everyone. This is Tom Suvansri at Premier Trust Advisors. I'm so excited you're here with me today. I've got a super great treat for you. I have my friend and mentor, Kim Butler, with me, and she's the founder of Partners for Prosperity and the Prosperity Economics Movement. She's been named top 100 most influential advisors by Investopedia 2017. She's authored 6 groundbreaking financial books. I've read them all, trust me, including Busting the Retirement Lies and the Amazon bestseller Live Your Life Insurance, which I think I read daily. And she's also the host of the Prosperity Podcast. Great podcast, love it. Great information, really great dialogues that they have there. So I'm really happy to have you here, Kim. Welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Absolutely, Tom. So fun to talk about what we do and how we do it. And you've just been a great student. I really have to applaud you for that. And I'm delighted to be able to share whatever wisdom I can today.
Awesome. I know your time's precious, so I'll get right into it. So for those who may not know you, which there may be some in this world, but for who do not, can you tell us a little bit about your background? How'd you get into this business?
Absolutely. So I was finishing up college thinking I was going to head into being a lawyer, did an intern at a law firm, didn't like that work at all, and lived with a banker at the time. So right out of college, I got into banking. I loved it. This was in the late 80s when banks really just did checking accounts and loans. And I also had some trust department experience, figured out I really liked helping people with money, which was no surprise since I'd been dealing with money since 4th grade, because as someone will find out somewhere, I was given a milk cow in 4th grade and got to milk cows and sell milk all my childhood. So I'd always been dealing with money. And at the bank, of course, I could help people, but it was in a pretty limited way. And so I was seeking a way to help people more thoroughly and found out about what I now call the typical financial planning industry. And I even got my certified financial planner designation and went through all of the training. I had all of my licenses, including all the way up to the Series 7, which is the stockbroker's license, of course, the life insurance and everywhere in between. And I had a great practice, but about 5 years into that, I just got one of those horrible gut feelings of like, this isn't right. This is not, these financial plans, these are not accurate. I'm not helping people thoroughly with this. I don't like what's going on here. And so I just went on this big search, figuring out, well, how else are people handling their wealth? And I had a lot of entrepreneurs as clients. And I realized, especially the older ones that had a lot of experience in dealing with money, they really didn't do financial planning per se. And so I went back and I looked at some of the history of money and some of the things that were a lot older than like the College of Financial Planning out of Denver and the whole idea of financial planning. And I, over time, developed some theories that I now call prosperity economics. And they're not mine. I didn't create them. I just resurrected them from literally things like the richest man in Babylon, biblical principles, basic economic theory. I went back to my accounting books and my economics books and really looked at how businesses handle money. And then I just brought all that down to the personal level and developed the 7 principles of prosperity that you know about and the economic theories, and then found products that met those principles. And then, as you also know, my husband has calculators that prove those principles. So that's about 30 years of work in a couple minutes.
Wow. I'm sure there's tons that went into that to finally get to the discovery. So yeah, you mentioned the principles of prosperity, which is always good to fall back on some basic principles. Like, which are some of I know there's 7 of them. What are some of the ones you maybe want to share that the audience here really could get a benefit, just get a flavor of what we're talking about?
Absolutely. Well, one of my favorites is principle number 4, which is flow. And it's the word FLOW is designed to remind us to focus on cash flow. And so much of personal financial work is focused on net worth. And it's the wrong thing to be focused on. Net worth is basically irrelevant. It does not give us experiences. It doesn't put food on the table. Cash flow does. And so from early on, back even to my banking days, I liked to handle investments that cash flow. And that's a very important part. And then I want to bring up a second aspect of that that's not necessarily one of the principles per se, but it's the importance of saving. You know, as a young person, as an elderly person, doesn't matter. Everybody wants to talk about investing. And yet saving is so critical. Having liquidity, having control, which is that's the fifth principle of prosperity. Having dollars that you're in control of and that are liquid and that are your emergency opportunity fund makes such an unbelievable difference in people's lives. And so that's something that I am very confident about right now, is putting out as the first thing that people need to make sure they have dialed in before they do any investing. And, you know, the investing, it's the fun stuff, it's the sexy stuff to talk about, but the savings are what enable us to sleep at night.
Yeah, I agree with you. And yeah, you're right. Investing that's the first thing everyone wants to talk about. And how do you get these massive returns? But the fundamental thing about saving is unfortunately, I think, is a little bit of a lost art.
You're right.
I remember the days when I was younger that I would be pushed to save a little bit, and it was boring, but it works.
Boring but effective are some of my favorite words.
Sometimes simpler is better.
Yep.
So, you know, it's interesting because you hear there's so much information about how to manage your finances. And I'm always curious about, you know, some of the myths that in your just, you know, exploration, what are some of those biggest myths out there that just are not true?
Well, I think the 15-year mortgage versus the 30-year mortgage is huge. And as a banker, I mean, I had my parents on a 15-year mortgage and they were prepaying that. I was prepaying my own mortgages. I used to think that was the way to go. And when I learned differently, I fought it for about 3 or 4 years, literally. And I had an assistant that was really good with that truth concept software, and he kept proving it and proving it and proving it. And as you know, one of my books, Busting the Interest Rate Lies, gets into this subject thoroughly and like dives deep with all the calculators to prove it out. And the bottom line is a 30-year mortgage is more efficient. It's more effective. And so it's a huge myth that's out there, and it's jabbered about all the time, and it frustrates the heck out of me. And I love being able to get somebody figured out and help them understand conceptually first and then numerically, if necessary, that the 30-year mortgage is the way to go.
And that's why I love the truth concept software, because it isn't just guesswork. It isn't just my opinion. There's numbers behind it. And you may not need to show it for folks, but it's good to know that it's numerically provable. It isn't just hearsay or guesswork. That's what I love about it.
Absolutely. And that truth concept software, anybody can grab that. If somebody's super analytical, there's a 10-day free trial. Then go to truthconcepts.com/support, grab the software, have fun with it. All of the books that we've written use the truth concept software to prove the concepts. So you've got principles and you've got theories, and those drive down to specific concepts, which then drive down to an actual product. You know, it might be the life insurance policy or the mortgage or whatever. But if somebody's heavily numerically oriented, it's so valuable to be able to prove out those principles, theories, and concepts down at that really detailed level.
No, I think that's a great point. And it is really about strategies and what they benefit for you. It isn't about the product. There's certainly products that potentially come with it for sure, but it's really about what it can do for you and benefit you and your family.
One of the things I like to say is products are things that you buy, and strategies are things that you do. Because the products that you and I work with are the same products that everybody works with. You know, some maybe nuances, but you know, it's not like we're inventing another product.
Yeah.
But we are adjusting strategy.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And certainly separates apart. And that's the thing that's interesting when you talk about typical financial planning and what people may perceive that to be. So folks and clients that have now sort of adopted the prosperity economics movement and philosophies and principles, what do you think in general, what has it done for them, right? As opposed to maybe what was happening in typical financial planning?
Well, what's cool about the 7 principles is that not only do they help people know what to do, but then it proves what it has done for them. So like back to number 4, flow. Our clients have more cash flow in their lives. Number 5, control. Our clients have more control over their money, and that's helpful to people. Number 6 is move. Our clients are moving their dollars through assets, which is something that probably needs to be drilled down on at another time. But then that breeds principle number 7, which is the multiplier effect, which is easy to understand. And that's that our clients' dollars are having a multiplier impact, a larger effect over their overall health, their well-being of their money. And so those principles are what, they're not only the beginning, they're the end. They're getting those results, and they're seeing that within a year or two of starting to work with us. This is not something that you have to wait 30 years to figure out if it works.
No, it's important. Yeah, and I love the way that you sort of walk through it, because it is, the principles aren't just isolated principles. They actually work together, right? And they
Absolutely.
Snowball effect, right?
Yes.
And like applying them cohesively together really can make a big impact on people's finances. So, on top of the financial part, I mean, what are you most excited about in terms of this space going forward that gets you really excited and optimistic about what's happening in the future?
Oh, that's a great question. I love being a contrarian. And okay, there's the term contrarian investor. It's not just that. It's just going against the grain, because if you just look out at the world, people aren't getting good results in many, many cases. And so we have financial strategies and products and those principles that help us get better results. And so I love that. I love being different. I love having a really strong message, and I just get excited about it all the time. I mean, just chatting about it with you gets me excited. And, the client that I had last gets me excited. The client I'm going to have next gets me excited. But I'm also, and thank you for bringing up, very, very excited about our prosperity economics movement, because our world, and let's get specific, it's basically America, needs this message mentally. We need the work financially, and there is a lot of work to be done. And so I'm excited to get more advisors like you helping more clients, because if I can help a client one-on-one, but if I can help you as an advisor, you can now go help your 500 clients or whatever that you're going to have as you grow in your practice. And I will say that growth is just an overarching term that I get excited about in any realm. It could be growth about business, personal growth, spiritual development, money growing, all things growing. I love working in the garden and the yard, and that kind of thing really gets me energized. And I love it too when clients see the principles that we have and then how to implement those with the products and really get it. They get the difference. And you've had this happen too. People immediately resonate with them typically. And they'll say, I've kind of always thought that, but I was pulled by this typical financial planning message that's out there that's so big and strong. So I guess you could say I feel a little bit like David and Goliath, and I'm in it.
So yeah, it's a great thing to get behind for sure. And that's what drew me to it for sure. And it makes sense. That's the bigger thing for me. A lot of it you're pulling from great principles that just are still applicable today as they were in the past.
Yep. And clients say the same thing. It makes sense. It just resonates. It just is, it's logical, but it's again, based on principles. And the way that you can tell a principle is accurate is if you can apply it to a lot of different things. So we have these 7 principles of prosperity, and we can apply them to money, but we could also apply them to our relationships, to our health, to our business. And that helps us see how relevant and accurate these principles are. And then, as you said, when we can prove them numerically with our finances, then how could they not make sense?
So the first one, and I know we didn't go through all 7, and we'll get through them later down the road, but the first one is think, right? The first principle, and it goes into thinking from a prosperous mindset. And it sort of reminds me, I know you have interest in the Abundance 360 community with Peter Diamandis, and all that comes, which is some awesome stuff. If anyone has ever not seen it, it's incredible the types of things they're trying to tackle. And it isn't just about money. It's about, a lot of things and a lot of different areas. Can you talk a little bit more about your association with that and how that's, how passionate you are with that?
Absolutely. So I wrote down these principles, and again, I didn't create them. They just were really in existence. I'm guessing like 20, 25 years ago. And in the last, I'm going to say 6 or 7 or 8 years, it's become very common amongst the business coaching community to talk about mindset. So you said, the first principle, think from a prosperous mindset instead of from a scarcity mindset. Well, believe me, I still get stuck thinking from a scarcity mindset. And so those principles are helpful to me. They remind me. Just the other day, I got all mired down in some muck, and I had to pull myself out of there and get my thinking rearranged. Well, Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach is one of my mentors. I've attended Strategic Coach for almost, I think it's going to be almost 25 years here soon. And through that program, I met Peter Diamandis. And so Peter is a wonderful thinker and has an event called Abundance 360 in January. And I've attended for about 5 years now. And the reason I like following him so much, so look him up, Peter Diamandis, Diamandis, is that he takes all of the technological advances that are happening right now and helps us understand the good that is going on there. He helps us think from a prosperous mindset about this technology. And that's super important because the typical media that's out there is causing a lot of fear and uncertainty and disconnect about all the various types of technologies out there and the unbelievable things that are happening. You know, it's funny. If you think about technology, like a washing machine is technology. And the people that used to scrub stuff by hand got scared and were worried, oh my gosh, all the hand washer people are going to be out of business. Well, you know, that's happening today just in a whole different realm. And yes, a lot faster. And so Peter helps us really make sense of it. And so I would really encourage people, he's got a couple books out. He does tons of YouTubes and Facebook work and blogs and podcasts, etc. And I really encourage people to follow him because it helps you stay in an abundance mindset, in a positive, proactive, prosperity-oriented thought process instead of getting stuck in scarcity mode like the typical media tends to help us do.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I've seen some newsletters with all the great work that's going on and a lot of massive thinking about what could happen, and for the good of the society and civilization. It's just amazing stuff. So thanks for sharing that. Absolutely. So, you know what, a couple closing things. I know we're almost end of time here, but you know, I was very interested in something. So I was going to ask you what your favorite quote is that helps sort of, you know, that inspires you. And I'll share mine. One of my favorites is a Mark Twain one. And it's, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than the ones you did. And it sort of inspires me to continue to push myself and do things that are very uncomfortable, like this, but doing it anyway, because I don't want to live this life with regrets. So how about you? Do you have a quote that you sort of just love and helps inspire you?
Well, I'm going to build off yours because one of the quotes that I like is from Dan Sullivan, and it's, you are defined more by what you say no to than what you say yes to. And then I have to give you a quote from me because this is something that I got from my mother and I live with, and it's give first. And I want to tell a quick story about that. She used to say, when my sister and I were heading out to go do something, she would say, give a good time instead of have a good time. And I hated it as a kid. I'm like, mom. And I don't know when, but at some point in my adult life, I went, oh my gosh, she knows what she's talking about. Because in every instance, when I go into something with the goal to give first, then I get awesome results. When I've gone into a situation wanting to get, I don't get such good results. And so that's my other quote to share with you is give first by Nancy Hayes. That's my mom.
That's great. I love it. Simple to the point, very impactful. It actually reminds me of a great story recently. I ran across somebody and he went through a Dunkin' Donuts line to get coffee, and they said, oh, well, the person in front of you just paid for your coffee. Well, that's wonderful. I'll do the same for the person behind me. Oh, by the way, what number am I in this line that did this? You're number 22, right? Wow. So somebody set a chain reaction off of 22 cars to give each other and pay for each other's coffee. And I said,
I love it.
that's so simple, and it's so to the point of give first, and good things will happen. So
Yeah.
great stuff. Thank you so much. So, listen, this is great time. I appreciate all your time. There's some wonderful tidbits there. Hopefully the audience will take that and want to learn even more. So how would they ever find out more about you, the prosperity economics movement and Partners for Prosperity? How can they get in touch with you?
I think really the best place is at Prosperity Peaks, Peaks. So when you think about your life, you have lots of mountains and lots of valleys. And a lot of people, especially with their finances, they think there's just this one mountain top. And that's not accurate. There's lots and lots of peaks. There's lots and lots of valleys, and there's more and more peaks. So that's why we called it that, Prosperity Peaks. And through there, they can learn about the movement. They can read a lot of the material that's on there. Of course, all the books are on Amazon. There's audio versions, there's Kindle versions, and there's paperback versions. And then, yes, my actual website, partners4prosperity.com. But I'd really rather have them get back to you. And you have all the skills and all the capability. You are always a joy to talk with. And I'm so excited to see where you're headed with your practice. And so if people have questions, you know how to implement and prove those 7 principles of prosperity. And, if they're just looking for more reading, then Prosperity Peaks is the best place for it. But I am so thrilled for where you are. It's so neat to see an advisor come in, really understand everything, take the time to learn all the calculators so that, like you said, you may not show them to a client every single day, but you know in your head and in your heart that the math behind those principles and products is 100% correct and that you can prove it. And that's a really cool position to be in.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Kim. Yeah. You and Todd have done such a tremendous job with this and creating this movement. And you guys have always been so supportive. So thank you so much. And thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Enjoy.
Thank you.